I hid from everyone that I work as a janitor until my son found my uniform in the trunk and asked, "Dad, why are you ashamed of your job?" I'm 43. I live in Denver, Colorado. I've been a janitor for the city's municipal services for 14 years. I leave at 5 every morning, when most of the city is still asleep. The broom, the dustpan, the truck, the garbage cans, the smell of garbage, the rain, the snow, the heat, all this is part of my life. I'm not ashamed of my job, but I hide it. Why? Because my son, Noah, is 11. He studies at a prestigious school where the parents are doctors, lawyers, programmers. And when they invite the parents to professional day, I always say, I work in logistics. Not a lie, but not the truth either. I don't want him to feel different, to be teased, to be ashamed of me. I was never the son of rich people. My father worked in a factory, my mother in a laundry. We lived modestly, but honestly. And when I became an adult, I decided my son would have more opportunities. And one of them was not to know that his dad was cleaning the city streets. Until last week, Noah was helping me get my things out of the trunk after a trip to my wife's father's. I forgot to take out my uniform, an old, dirty one with a city service emblem. He found it under the blanket. "Dad, what is this?" I was freezing. "It's a work uniform. But you say you work in logistics." "Yes," I said. "But this is another part. Are you a garbage collector?" I couldn't lie. "Yes." He looked at the uniform, at me, and then he asked, "Why are you ashamed of your work?" I couldn't answer, not because I didn't know why, but because I suddenly realized I'm not ashamed of my work. I'm ashamed of his reaction. "I'm not ashamed of my work," I said. "I just didn't want you to feel different." "But you're doing something important," he said. "You're keeping the city clean. You said that cleanliness is respect for people." "Yes," I said, "and I believe in that." "Then why are you hiding it?" I sat there and couldn't understand. Whether I was protecting him, whether I was humiliating myself, whether I was teaching him to be ashamed of his work. The next day he came home from school. "I told the class that you were a garbage collector." I was scared. "What did they say?" "Nothing bad," he said. Lily said, "My grandfather worked like that too. He said it was the most important job in the city." And Mr. Ellis said in civics class, "The people who clean our streets are the heroes we don't see." I couldn't speak. "Did you know we're writing an essay called My Family and Their Professions?" He asked. "Yes. I'm going to write about you. About how you get up at 5. How you shovel snow when everyone else is asleep. How you don't complain. How you say, someone's got to do it. Aren't you afraid of being teased?" "No," he said. "Because you're my dad, and you do what you have to do. And that's the most important thing." I hugged him, and in that moment I realized I wasn't protecting him. I was humiliating what I lived by myself. And now I had to decide whether to continue hiding, whether to finally become who I am. I couldn't help but think of him as saying, "I'm going to write about you." Not because I was surprised, but because I was embarrassed. Not for my job, for myself. Because I thought she was something to hide. I called my wife. She was in advanced training, teaching high school math. Noah told the class I was a janitor. I said, "I know," she said. "The teacher told me." She said he wrote a really good introduction to his essay. "So what?" "That everyone was impressed," she said. "Especially the way he said, 'My dad doesn't want anyone to know, but I want everyone to know. He's making our town a better place.'" I couldn't speak. "And are you mad at me?" I asked. That I never told the truth. "No," she said. "I've known about your job since day one." "What? Did you think I wouldn't notice the uniform in the trunk? I wouldn't see you come back at 6 in the morning, tired, with the smell of garbage on your clothes? I wouldn't feel you washing yourself, so you wouldn't smell?" I saw it, and I understood. "And you didn't say anything?" "Why?" She said. "You worked. You brought in money. You raised a son, and you never complained. But I saw how you changed when someone asked where you worked. How you smiled and said, 'In logistics.' And I understood. You were afraid that you would be looked down on, that Noah would look down on you. And you? I have always respected you more than anyone else," she said. "Because you do what others avoid. You don't stand in an air-conditioned office. You stand outside in the rain, snow, heat. And you don't say, 'That's none of my business.' You say someone has to do it, and you do it." "But why didn't you ever say?" "Because it wasn't my decision," she said. "It was yours. And I was waiting for you to realize that you shouldn't be ashamed." I sat there wondering, was I protecting my son? Was I putting myself down? Was I teaching him to believe that some jobs were inferior? The next day, I went to a parent-teacher conference at the school. Not because I was invited, but because I wanted to tell the truth. When I entered the classroom, the teacher stopped. Alex, are you here? Yes, I said. I wanted to say a few words. As a father, as a person, everyone looked. Children, parents, even the principal came out. My name is Alex, I said. I am Noah's father, and I don't work in logistics. I am a garbage collector. I clean the streets of our city. Silence. I hid it for a long time, not because I'm ashamed of my work, but because I was afraid that my child would be ashamed, that she would be teased, that she would start to be ashamed of me. I looked at Noah. He was smiling. But my son taught me one thing. You should not be ashamed of your work. You should be ashamed of your lies. You should be ashamed of the pride that makes you hide the truth. I get up at 5 in the morning. I work in the rain, snow, heat. I don't do it to get rich. I do it because someone has to do it. And I think it's important. That's service. And I won't hide it anymore. Because my son is not ashamed of me. And I have no right to be ashamed of him. I sat down. No one applauded. But many nodded. A father came up after the meeting. My father was a tax collector. He said, I never talked about it in school. But now my son knows. And thank you for saying what I couldn't say. I went home. Noah was waiting. You were brave. He said. No, I said. You were brave. You were the first to tell the truth. And in that moment I understood. I wasn't protecting him. I should have trusted him. Because children don't judge by your profession. They judge by whether you're honest. Whether you love. Whether you keep your word. And I decided, no more lies. No more hidden forms. I'm a tax collector. And this is my dignity. I didn't come to school after that meeting. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't want to be perceived as the hero of the evening. I wanted life to go on. For Noah to live without feeling like his father was a topic of discussion. But one morning, when I was driving him to school, he forgot his backpack in the car. I decided to take it myself. It was still early. The students were walking in the yard, waiting for the door to open. I went to the classroom, knocked, gave the backpack to the teacher, and left. But as I passed a group of children, I heard my name. That's Noah's dad, the boy whispered. A garbage collector. Not just a garbage collector, said the girl Lily. He's the one who cleans the street outside my school. And he always takes out the trash when I leave. Isn't he ashamed? Another boy asked. My parents say it's a job for people who haven't learned anything. That's a lie, Lily said. He works harder than anyone else. It was -10 yesterday, and he was sweeping the sidewalk while everyone else was asleep. And Noah says he never complains. Why didn't he say so before? Because he was afraid Noah would be ashamed, she said. But now he says, I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of him. Would you like that kind of job? I don't know, Lily said. But I want to be that kind of person. The kind of person who does the right thing even when no one is looking. I stood around the corner, unable to breathe. Not because I was touched, and because he understood. It's not about me. It's about how honesty can change attitudes. Not right away. Not everyone. But at least a few. A few days later, the class started presenting essays. The topic was my family and their professions. Noah was the third. He came to the board. Not reading. He told stories. My dad works as a tax collector, he said. He gets up at 5 in the morning. In the winter, when it's dark and cold. In the summer, when the sun is scorching. He doesn't complain. He says, someone has to do it. And he used to be ashamed of it. Not because of his job. Because he was afraid I would be ashamed of him. But I was never ashamed. I just didn't know how hard it was for him. When I found his uniform, I asked, why are you hiding? And he said, I want you to have a better life. But a better life is not when you lie. A better life is when you are honest. And now he is no longer hiding. And I am proud of him. Not because he is a garbage collector, but because he is a man who does what is right. Even when it is hard. Even when no one is looking. The room fell silent. Then came applause. Not loud, but sincere. After class, the teacher came up to me. Thank you, she said. You didn't just change Noah's attitude. You changed the whole class's attitude toward work. One boy said, maybe when I grow up I will be a garbage collector too. If it helps people. I went home. Noah was sitting on the porch. Did you hear that? Yes, I said. And I never thought my gloves would change anyone's mind. But they did, he said. Because you're not just a janitor. You're the dad who taught me the importance of being honest. I hugged him. And in that moment, I realized I haven't lost anything. I found myself, not in the office, not in the money, but in being able to say, this is me, and I'm not ashamed. It was morning, cold. The snow was half melted, half turned to ice. I was working outside Noah's school, cleaning the sidewalk, taking out the trash so the kids could walk safely. He was standing there watching me work, not from distance, right next to the fence. Good morning, I said. Good morning, he said. Are you Noah's dad? Yes. I'm the history teacher here. My name is Thomas. I've heard of you, I said. Noah says you're the best. He smiled, but there was something heavy in his eyes. I wanted to thank you, not for the work, but for what you did for your son. I don't do anything special, I said. I just clean. No, he said. You did something important. You showed that honest work is not shameful. It is dignity. He paused. Then he said, when I was Noah's age, my father worked as a tax collector, but he never said anything about it. When I asked, he said, I work in a warehouse. And I decided he was ashamed, and I began to be ashamed of him. And then, when I grew up, I studied to become someone better. I studied to never stand with a broom in my hands. And when he asked me to help him on one of the routes, I refused. I said, I don't want anyone to see me with you. He lowered his eyes. He never asked again. And 2 years later he died. And the last thing he said to my mother was, I just wanted him not to be ashamed of me. I couldn't speak. I watched you in class, he said. I was in the hallway. And when you said, I'm a tax collector, I cried. Because my father could never say that. And you could. Not for myself, but for his son. I didn't want Noah to feel different, I said. But you didn't make him different, he said. You made him stronger. Because he sees that being honest is more important than being better. And you. I've only learned that now, he said. When I saw the way your son looked at you. Not with pity, not with shame, but with pride. And I thought, I wish I had a father like you. Not because you're a sweeper, but because you didn't betray yourself to make yourself look better. I stood there, wondering if this was just talk, or an apology he couldn't give his father. Thank you for telling me, I said. Thank you for being an example, he said. Maybe now I can tell my students, so that someone else doesn't make the same mistake I did. He left, and I stood there looking at the broom in my hands, not as a tool, but as a symbol. And in that moment I realized, this isn't just a job. This is an inheritance, not in money, not in positions, but in the way you stand in front of your child. Or are you hiding? Are you standing straight? A week later, Noah brought a drawing from school. It was me, in uniform, with a broom. The inscription, my dad. He keeps the city clean. And my world too. I hung in my office. And every time I got tired, I looked at it. And I remembered, I'm not just a sweeper. I'm a dad. 6 months passed. The school announced an open house. Meet the heroes. Each student had to invite a person who was an example to them. Doctors, firefighters, military personnel, teachers. Everyone was preparing for presentations. I didn't expect Noah to invite me. But one evening he said, Dad, are you coming? Me? Why? Because you are my hero. He said, not because you save people, but because you have changed. You were shy, and you have become honest. And that is harder. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. The day came. I came in my work uniform. I didn't wear a suit. I didn't hide. I was who I was. Noah stood at the blackboard. In front of him is the class, parents, teachers. My hero is my dad, he said. Not because he did something great, but because he did something important for himself. He showed a photo, me, in uniform, cleaning the sidewalk under the snow. He is a garbage collector. He gets up earlier than everyone else. He works in any weather, and he used to be ashamed of it. Not because of work, but because he was afraid that I would start to be ashamed of him. But I was never ashamed. I just didn't know how hard it was for him. And when he stopped hiding, I understood. Real strength is not when you are not afraid of anything. Real strength is when you are afraid, but still stand in front of everyone and say, this is me. He doesn't want money. He wants people to live cleanly. He doesn't want fame. He wants his son to know that honest work is dignity. And that's why I'm inviting him today, not as an employee, but as my hero. Because a hero is not someone who saves the world. A hero is someone who doesn't betray themselves. The room fell silent. Then, long, heartfelt applause. Some parents wiped their eyes. The teacher stood there nodding. I walked up to the board. I didn't prepare. I just said, thank you, Noah. You've taught me more than I've taught you. I thought I was protecting you by hiding the truth. But in reality, I was demeaning what I live by, what I do with dignity, what helps others. I'm not a hero. I am a working man. But if my honesty helps someone understand that it is important to be yourself, then maybe I did something right. After the event, a girl came up to me, the same Lily. My dad saw the video, she said. He works at a factory, and he never said anything about it either. But today he said, I will not be ashamed anymore. I smiled, and in that moment I understood. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Not of my fame, but of ideas. That dignity is not something that others give. It is something you decide to be. A month later, the city administration announced a competition, Our Invisible Heroes. I was nominated. Not me. Noah's class. I did not win, but I was in the top 10, and my photo appeared on the city council's honor board, with the inscription, Alex R., tax collector, father. Example. I did not become different. I remained myself. But now I knew. I did not just clean the streets. I leave a mark in hearts. And that is enough. And every morning, when I go out at 5, I look at the light in the windows, at the clean sidewalk, at the laughter of children, and think, this is my life, and I am not ashamed of it.